Okay, this video is part one of two parts. In this video, we're going to talk about the properties of a sine curve. The properties of a sine and cosine curve. Some people call this a sinusoidal curve. Any kind of curve like this that repeats itself over and over again. Okay, I guess they call that periodic. Okay, when it keeps repeating itself over and over again. Well, there's some properties we need to look at. The first one's called the maximum. The maximum is how high this curve gets, okay? In this case, the maximum would be at 1. That is the highest this thing gets, okay? As you can guess, the minimum is going to be down here. This is the maximum, and this is the minimum, okay, as you would have guessed. The maximum is 1, the minimum is -1. Okay. The amplitude is, and I think I'll do that one in red. So the amplitude is the distance between, well, I guess you could call it the middle, the thing that cuts a curve like this in half lengthwise, to the top or to the bottom. So the amplitude would be this distance from here to here, which is 1. And the amplitude is always positive, okay? The amplitude is always positive. It's just a distance. So it's the distance from this middle part here. And this middle part, I should give it a name too while we're at it. Some call it, I'll just draw it right here. This middle line, that is terrible. How could I even? There we go. That middle line has a name. Some people call it the equation of the axis. Some people call it the median. Some people just call it the axis of the curve. Just think of it like in a car. There's an axle, right? And the axle is in the middle of your tire. It's right in the middle. So it's this number right here. It's the number that would be at right here. It would be 0 in this case. Now later on, when we move these curves up and down, for example, this number here is going to change. But for a basic one like this, and we know this curve here, based on the video we just did before this, this is a sine curve right here. It starts at 0 and goes up in this pattern right here. And if you remember, we also talked about those 5 key points, 5 key points. This one, right here, down here, and here. But those are the 5 key points that we talked about earlier. The amplitude is 1. Okay, so that's called the amplitude. And I forgot the red pen. This is going to look really messy. Amplitude. And okay, this one's different, the period. The period of a curve is how long it takes along the x-axis for a curve to repeat itself. In the future, we're going to be practicing this, changing the periods so that the curve repeats itself quite quickly. In this one here, though, the curve goes upwards, then it goes down, and then at this point right here, it starts to go up again. So in other words, the distance between here and here, between 0 and 360 degrees, is when this sine curve repeats itself. Okay, and that is called the period. So the period for this curve is 360 degrees. Okay, it's the distance that it takes this curve to repeat itself. Okay, that period will change with other graphs we look at in the future, but for now you just need to know what period means. Okay, now the intercepts, you already know what intercepts mean. Intercepts are just the places where the curve cuts through the x-axis. Those are the x-intercepts, and of course the y-intercept is the place where it cuts through the y-axis, which would be at 0. The x-intercepts here are 0, 180, and 360 degrees. The y-intercept is just at 0 degrees, or 0 in this case. Okay? Those are some properties of a sine or cosine curve. Okay, a sinusoidal curve. If you need me to spell sinusoidal, I can do that for you while you look at some of the things we just talked about. You can always hit pause right now and look, because here are some official definitions of what we just talked about. Okay, is there anything I missed? I don't think so. I think we got it all. Yep. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Thanks, folks.